Hey everyone, welcome to the program WRSA Radio. I am your host, Grenadier One. As always, I hope you are having a good week. I've had an interesting one, but I can't get into too much detail of it. It was fun, but just for anonymity reasons, I've talked about it on some other platforms, and so I want to try and not make the job easier for the people who try to track us down and for future processing, I guess you could say. Anyway, so what are we talking about on the show today? Well, this one may be hard for some people, but we're going to talk about pain and suffering and grief and loss and how that's impacting our people. Now, I don't really have a lot of images to go with this, so it's probably not a very interesting video, but the audio is what you should focus on anyway here. So I'll probably just put up like one or two images and, put that, and that'll be enough for the video. So apologies if you're listening to this now or watching this on one of the video platforms that, probably not going to be exactly visually stimulating. But anyway, so I'm going to break this down into two sections, and the first will deal with, kind of the personal aspects of this, and the second will deal with how it affects us on a larger scale and kind of what it means to us. But let me explain why I chose this topic and the observations I've had over the last few months. And again, without going too deep into my personal dealings with depression or sorrow or whatever, frankly hurt. Over the last few months, I've been going through some things, and again, no details. It's personal, but just setting the stage here. Nothing too major, by the way, but just general life things. But at any rate, part of dealing with these things for me is listening to music or other kinds of entertainment to kind of take my mind off things, or really even in some cases to kind of enhance the effect of things and just to try to get them out of your system, So I've been watching a lot of videos on YouTube and other platforms, and something I observed and took notice of, and it's not too hard to notice if you look, but the striking number of people who were commenting on videos, particular types of music, and what I'm talking about is music that is, evocative, sad music, I guess you could say, or the kind of music that you would listen to, songs that talk about loss and grief and all these kind of things. The comment sections on some of these videos are sometimes tens of thousands of people sharing their pain and their grief and their suffering, and just perfect strangers pouring themselves out in anonymity on the internet. And I was really taken aback by this a little bit, and it kind of set into motion me thinking more and more on this and what this indicated and pointed to. And you put this together with other things that you see or experience on other platforms, and even in some personal conversations I've had with people. And what it points to is that we have a massively significant number of people in this country who are broken and suffering, and they have little means of dealing with that. And I'll get into that part of it, more in the next segment. But for now, just understand this is a major problem. And now I think it's naive to think that most people are fine and sound and stable. So when you look at those numbers, you have to kind of balance that and say, well, you really can't say, well, most people are okay, because most people aren't okay. Everyone, I don't think that it's a truth, at all that most people are okay. At any given time, everyone has experienced some form of depression or sadness or what have you, and it's just the human condition, and we all deal with it and go through it. We all go through it in different ways and process it in different ways. And some people, however, don't do that very well, and it becomes a chronic or even debilitating condition for them. So it's no surprise that we have people out there who are hurting. That it's a normal, expected thing. But what is a surprise to me is kind of the two diametric ends of the spectrum of this. And let me explain that. On the one end, which I will call the legitimate end or the real end, we have people who are dealing with real stuff, real grief, real heartbreak, real sorrow. This is the legitimate and something, to actually be concerned about. And on the other end, we have people who are dealing with minor inconveniences and setbacks, and they are equating those with the real end of the spectrum, which is absolute nonsense. And along the line there, we have a whole group of young men who have given up on the world and accepted as fact that they will likely never find a partner that they can truly be happy with and have a lasting relationship with. And that's much closer to the real end of the spectrum than probably some of you will likely acknowledge. But trust me, it's real and it's a problem. And they're just another kind of subgroup of all of these things that are going on here. And I've spoken about young people before and how they can't deal with setbacks and the complications of the modern world. This kind of ties into that because they make up the large portion of the people who are kind of on the fake end of the spectrum, who cannot accept any kind of obstacle or impact on their condition. They have the false idea that they are entitled to happiness and a life without suffering, and that's just ridiculous. Now, to tie this together here, suffering is integral to the human condition, and it is through pain and suffering that we live our lives. And we learn and grow and evolve dealing with obstacles and setbacks and the grief and loss and all of these pains of the world. And we must have our downs in our lives so that the ups mean more and they cause us to seek out the ups, if you will. This is what drives us to improve our situation. It's what compels us to change and move towards something better than where we are or what we are experiencing. If we never suffered, if we never felt pain and discomfort, we would never have been anything more than the animals living in family units in the woods and the jungles of the world. Pain and suffering and our aversion to them are interwoven into the development of civilization. It is the driving thing that makes us what we are. Think about the lowly, peasant worker. If they didn't feel pain and discomfort, they never would have developed better ways of doing their work. They would not have become more efficient and invented new tools that help them, alleviate that suffering. Having some pain and suffering in your life is normal, and it is a good thing for us to experience. Now, that said, it does not make the hurt go away, okay? It is still difficult to deal with these things, especially when we are not equipped to deal with them. When we have no place to reach out to and no place to go to, just, no one that we can just let it all hang out and ask for help working out these things. And this is where we start getting into the next part of this, which is what has happened to our society and why are we in the state that we are in? In the past, people would face these things. They would, but they wouldn't have to face them alone. They had institutions and they had structure in their society to deal with these things. There were public festivals and spectacles that kind of dealt with this loss and pain, and they allowed people to display that and without shame, without feeling like they were imposing on their community or anything, and they could pour it all out to just the entire village, or their whatever their community was, and no one was put off by that, and it was expected. It's part of a natural cycle of things. They could go to their religious leaders. They could go to members of civic groups and other people in their communities, and they could have these conversations that need to be had to deal with what they are going through. Well, we no longer have that. We have not equipped our young people to deal with suffering and obstacles and problems. And we've become a society that largely doesn't communicate. Something, if you notice, something I have noticed is that when we look at social media, and I've been on the internet for decades. Okay, I've been involved in, I guess, what you could call social media platforms long time ago. CompuServe, America Online, all the way back then, right? And I've been posting on bulletin boards for all this time, and I've seen a systematic decline in communication between people. When this all began, you could go on those platforms and you would find real conversation, real communication taking place. And over the last 5 years or so, what you have seen is this precipitous drop in actual communication between people. Even on the big platforms, Facebook, these kind of things, Instagram, TikTok, all these kind of things, no one really communicates. They post things and people will comment with one word, or they will click a like or an emoji or something like that, and that's how they show, oh, I read this or I approve of this. But there's really no conversation that takes place. There's no interaction between people. So we have withdrawn more and more and more into ourselves. Ironically, as our ability to communicate around the world expanded and grew and evolved, we've sunk into ourselves. And then the last 2 years, I think, with COVID and the fallout from that, I think, has just really made it worse and worse and worse. But what has really taken the toll on us is the long march through the institutions by the left. It's systematically destroyed the things in our communities that prepared us or allowed us to deal with these kinds of things. The left undermines the foundations of society so that it will collapse upon itself, and they can replace it with some form of communism. Well, that's come to its natural evolutionary end, and we are standing at the edge of a cliff with a population of people who are on the brink of insanity. It's madness. And when this thing goes, people are going to break, and it's going to be far worse than anyone has ever imagined. I believe that this will pale the fall of the Roman Empire. It is going to be devastating and bloody and ruinous. People have recognized this, I think, at least in practice, because that's what's driving them to pour themselves out to perfect strangers on YouTube. When we deal with pain and loss and suffering, it's often far more simple to speak to someone that you don't know, someone who will just sit and listen to you ramble and kind of get it out and, tell your story and what you're going through. Now, I've done this for people, and I've done this to people, and it is literally a lifesaver. People who can sit and just listen, you don't know what you're doing, how much you are helping that person that has come to you. So if you ever see someone in need, if you ever get the chance to do that, just do it. Okay, don't ask questions. Just sit and listen. That's what they're looking for. And we like to think that we will be there for the people who need us. We tell people that all the time. Oh, I'm there for you, bro. I'll listen to you, whatever. But they are far more likely to turn to a complete stranger because they don't want to burden us with their troubles. And maybe more importantly, they don't know how we're going to react to them. They don't know how we will judge them based off of what they say. People don't like being told that they made their own bed. They don't like being told that they are the source of most of their problems. They don't like to be judged for the decisions that they've made. And so it's too risky to have that conversation with someone who knows their life in detail and can point out that, hey, you made these mistakes along the way, that led to you being in this place that you were in. Or, wow, why did you go and do something like that? That was really dumb. A flippant comment like that, or a comment placed with the wrong emphasis or something like that, can be very devastating for someone, who's going through something like this. So it's far easier to talk to someone that doesn't know them very well. But the problem that we have, because of that internet, because of this devolution of communication, is people don't have those people in their communities anymore. And the only place that they do have them is perfect strangers on the internet. So they go to YouTube and they bare their souls to anyone who will read it. And they do this a lot. Video after video after video, and story after story after story. And I've read hundreds of comments over the last couple of months of people dealing with all kinds of things, and it is sad, it is terrible, and it's heartbreaking. Now, we've talked before about why it is that the West has not experienced a real revolutionary backlash to what our governments are forcing on us. So this is another problem that we have. We can surmise that it is because people have not felt the pain and suffering enough to cause them to revolt. But wait a second. Didn't I just say that we have a bunch of people feeling pain and suffering right now? And doesn't that mean that we're on the brink of revolution? Well, no, because it's not the right people, and it's not the right kind of pain and suffering. We've got the mix all wrong. It's like the old, naturally aspirated engines. You have to have the right fuel and air mixture, and have it just right so that you get combustion. Well, our mixture is all wrong, and we certainly can make the case that this is being done to us on purpose. It's being done to keep us focused and taken up with our own personal grief and sorrow that, we possibly ignore, or really worse, we actually support the infliction of grief and sorrow on other groups of people in society just so that we can feel better about how crappy we have it. All of our means of dealing with these things have been driven away and replaced with self-destructive behaviors. People are drinking and screwing their way to some form of false happiness and doing everything they can not to look at the 1,000-pound gorilla in the room, which is the fact that this is being done to us by people who want us gone. Now, in order for us to reach some kind of criticality with regard to resistance, the right kind of people need to be going through the right kind of pain and suffering. And until we get that, we're just going to continue down this road that we're on. So what do we do? Well, we've got to deal with that personal pain and suffering first. Our personal issues. However you can, try and resolve these things. Try and settle old grievances, put them behind you, give them up. Try to tell people that mean everything to you that they mean everything to you. Tell the people who've hurt you that they have hurt you, and if they can't deal with that, then you don't need them in your life anyway. Just try to accept that those people who are gone, and be thankful that they were in your lives, and thank God that they do not have to live through what you're going to live through. And I hate to sound a little callous here because, as I said, I'm going through my own things, but what we are facing in the very near future, and it's really already going on as I write this, as you read the headlines from this week, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. What we are facing is loss and sorrow on a whole different level. I think you can all gather what I'm talking about here. We suspect that what is coming is a large number of people who are going to suddenly no longer be with us. I think we're going to see a nation in such a state of mourning and grief that they will be prime for whatever the elites have planned for us. Or at least that's what they think. And that's some of what I've been dealing with. I look around and I see people that I know, friends and family, and I have that pit of the stomach, gut-churning feeling that many of them are going to be gone very soon, and it tears me up inside. I'm making my peace with that, saying goodbye in my own little way, just in case. And I'm kindling a rage that I can't even begin to get into here, for obvious reasons. And this is where we are, folks. Imagine where we're going to be. And on that sad note, that's all I got time for this week. Like and subscribe. Come see us over on Gab and the Mothership. And I will see you on the next episode.